That quick, like we
Yeah,
went
I just clicked
from
the button. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Um, Welcome back, Neutral Zone, episode 33, college football week one recap. Kind of a week one recap. We obviously have a game in the next hour, and then we have tomorrow's game, Boston College versus Florida State. A lot to unpack, though, with what happened yesterday. Obviously, I have a lot to speak about with my Tigers. You're good with my Tigers. We're going to talk about them getting dismantled. But overall, I had fun watching the games yesterday. It started off obviously poor for me, but I think after with the game ended at noon, I think by 1:30, I was kind of like
it was good.
I was kind of over it. And I think in years past, this would have pissed me off for like a month. But I think with the 12-team playoff, like you said, like it doesn't even matter at this point. Like,
Yeah,
and
I
I don't
mean,
like it. And my team lost, and I don't like it. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, and we'll talk about a bunch of teams, but for all the teams that lost, really any team, your season's still ahead of you. Obviously, we'll start this with Clemson because that's not even a conference loss. So
yeah.
if they can run the table, and again, there's a lot left to be desired with that Clemson team, but you can go back in your locker room now and say, like, hey, our whole season's still ahead of us. Literally, we still have a guaranteed spot to the playoffs ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, that's easy to say. Obviously, I'm an optimistic Clemson fan. But I will say, and I've kind of come to this realization over the last 24 hours, in my opinion, this is playoff or bust for Clemson. I've been kind of backing this, no transfer portal thing and, the kind of direction that we're going. If we don't make the playoffs this year, then I think there's going to be changes in the offseason. But I think if we make the playoffs, then all that kind of gets silenced.
Okay.
We don't have a conference loss. Florida State does. We don't play Miami. So we're at a situation right now where we control our own destiny. The offense has to be better.
Oh
I
my.
thought we played a good first half. I don't think the score was indicative of what kind of team this is. Again, this is a blowout. It's the biggest blowout in the last decade that I've seen. The last time we've got beaten this bad was in 2013. I don't even remember who it was against, but we lost by more than 31 points. So this was the biggest loss I've seen in the last 10 years since I've been an adult. So it's definitely crazy to kind of think about. But like I said, I think when you're going against a team that is supposed to and are the favorites to win the national championship, I've said this before. What's going on, Christian? I said this
What up,
before
Christian?
that Clemson is not a national championship team. So losing this game didn't show me something that I didn't already know about Clemson. This is something that everybody already knew about Clemson. We already knew they weren't a national championship contender. I think they're still a playoff contender. I just don't think they can compete for the national championship. I said this last week on the show. I said this 6 months ago. I said this a year and a half ago. This is not something that changed because of the score or the game that happened yesterday. I still think we have one of the best defenses in college football. We showed that in the first half. It's hard to say Clemson's defense isn't good when they're on the field for the entire second half. At some point, there's going to be busted coverages. At
Yeah,
some point, people are going to get tired.
I also say I think when you're talking about young players, at some point you get a little disheartened, right? When
Yeah.
I'm watching my offense not be able to maintain drives, not be able to really do anything with the ball, and then Georgia does get because just like as we were talking, the thought was if Georgia got two possessions ahead, that Clemson may be in a little bit of trouble. Was they get two possessions, three possessions, and you're still not seeing your offense do anything, you start to become a little disheartened. And I think that played into it. Not a talent thing, not a scheme thing, but the defense was just a little disheartened.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I think there's positives to look at from this team. I think the defense played well. I don't think we're going to play an offense as explosive as Georgia the rest of the year. And I don't think we're going to play a defense as good as Georgia the rest of the year. Not to say we still can't lose another 4 or 5 games. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you look at the rest of the season, I don't think we're going to be in that predicament again. I don't think we're going to be in an environment like that again. Florida State obviously is going to be a tough game in Doak Campbell. But I like our chances in that game with how our defense performed. So again, we just have to see how we look against this week against App State. After the bye week, we got NC State. But overall, some positive things to look forward to for the rest of the year. Everything is still ahead of us. We still don't have a game in conference play. So as long as we win our conference, or even I wouldn't even say win the conference. If we
Now,
can go 10-2 or 11-1 and lose a conference game, we're still in a position to make the playoffs. So it's just hard to see. We got to see how the rest of the year unfolds.
yeah, my biggest concern is that offense. That offense looked absolutely anemic. And again, I don't know if that is a part of Georgia's defense being that amazing
I don't think
or
so.
Clemson's offense having because uh there were very few times where they were even pressing that Georgia defense and really maintaining drives, right? You had the 35-yard pass down the sideline, then that kind of went kaput. There wasn't a lot of sustainment of drives overall. There was a play here or there, no knock. So I will say on behalf of Clemson, this App State game, you really need to see what that offense is going to be. I think we know, and I think everybody who watched that game will say Clemson's defense is legit, right? And so the concern is when we talk about the difference between a 9-win team like last year that played amazing defense and a team that can push for a playoff, an ACC championship, is going to be, is this offense serviceable? Not even great, but can they put up consistently 25, 27, 30 points? And not against just the App States, but against good other ACC teams, the Florida States, the North Carolina States. Can they put up 30 points, putting their defense in a position to just play good defense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't think it was Georgia's defense is the reason. I think the Clemson offense just isn't good. I mean, we've said this for the last 2 years. I've never got on here and said the Clemson offense was good. That has never came out of my mouth. So it's not like I'm retracting a statement. This is something that I've believed in. I've said Cade Klubnik cannot be a starting quarterback on a championship level team. At some point, you got to point the finger at Dabo Swinney and Garrett Riley. I don't know who calls the plays early in the game. But one thing I do want to say, and we'll move on to the next team. I don't want this to be all Clemson show. I don't like how Dabo, we've talked about before how he like protects his guys or whatever. But at some point, you have to try something different. And when you get in the damn post-game press conference and you say, well, I think Cade Klubnik played a good football, don't do that. Don't say, well, there's missed tackles on the defensive side of the ball, and say how Cade Klubnik played a good football game, when in reality, you didn't open up the offense until the fourth quarter. Bryant Westco and TJ Moore did not come into the game until the fourth quarter.
Yep.
I expect, if in the App State game, I expect them to not play the same offense they played in Georgia. It's going to be the same situation as Florida State. Florida State is not going to look the same tomorrow as they did in
agree.
As they did against.
They're going to open it up.
It's going to be a far different offensive play calling, and if it's not, then I'm going to be concerned. So we'll see at the end of the year how the narrative shifts and what it looks like. But obviously, Clemson got their butts kicked yesterday. Georgia looks the part. And we'll just have to see how it goes. But the next game I want to talk about is the Penn State-West Virginia game. We both said it on here. Don't understand why this game was even supposed to be close. And I understand. I called it Normantown. I understand Morgantown. They're a decent environment. It wasn't a night game, so it wasn't rocking like it probably should have been. But I just think Penn State is a really good team. They're a team that slept on. This is a playoff caliber team. You called it, and Drew Allar having a good game. We're definitely going to talk about him in a second, Christian, because that's somebody I want to hit on as well. But Penn State played the part, looked the part, and I expect the team to be competing for a playoff spot. I'm not going to go as far as say national championship yet because I need to see more.
Yeah, so the key thing that I saw here that is concerning is the young man Harrison Wallace, 5 catches, over 100 yards. I thought that the down unit for Penn State was the receivers. This Harrison Wallace is a true number 1 wide receiver. Yep, just that's the person I'm talking about, Harrison Wallace. If he's a true number 1 wide receiver, there's some concern because obviously we know what they have in the running game, and Nick Singleton and Allen both look good. Drew looked good, just like we mentioned. Remember, Julian Fleming didn't even have a catch this game. But if this guy Harrison Wallace is a true number 1 and can continue to play like he played against West Virginia, Penn State may be putting the whole college football on notice because they're going to play good defense. So, ho-hum, good game for Penn State.
Yeah, the next person I want to talk about, obviously Iowa won 40-0. They were up like 13-0 at halftime. I don't really care about talking about them, to be honest. No disrespect to Hawkeyes fans, but they didn't play anybody worth talking about.
No, you was trying to knock that Hawkeye offense, and they put up 40.
Okay,
they boys their props.
I actually want to know, did they put up 40 or was it defensive scores? I didn't watch the game, but it was 13-0.
So Cade McNamara threw 3 touchdowns. I know that. So that's at least 21. So yeah, I mean, listen, don't try to play Iowa. The boys put up 40.
anyways,
props.
I do want to talk about Nico. I'm at Tennessee. Obviously playing Chattanooga, but he put up some big numbers. I want to see how he looks at the rest of the year against SEC opponents. 6'6" quarterback, obviously in a very explosive offense. Veteran receiving core, decent running backs. So and obviously the best defensive lineman in college football, in my opinion, in James Pierce. So I'm excited to see how he looks against other people. But so far, I mean, Tennessee offense, it gave me glimpses of that offense we saw 2 years ago. We saw kind of how they were battling with Alabama, and then almost getting to that playoff. So how did you feel about Nico's kind of debut? I know he played the bowl game, but his debut this year.
So in the bowl game, I mentioned this in the preview. They were very careful with him. This game, they opened it up. I mean, he threw the ball 28 times. He went for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. This really was indicative of that star factor that we thought he had with him. Obviously, again, I want to keep this in due bounds because this was Chattanooga, right? But I think this was a good glimpse. And I think for young quarterbacks, building confidence like this was really good. Dylan Sampson went for 124 on the ground, so he shows that they can run the ball too. So I think this is just a good confidence boost for a young, dynamic quarterback. He didn't even have to run much. I think he only had like 6 yards rushing, so he didn't have to show, and he does have that dual threat ability. So yeah, this is concerning if you're in the SEC. That Tennessee, with what like you mentioned, James Pierce, they have a very good defense. If this offense shows life like they did against Chattanooga, and yes, again, I know it's Chattanooga, then this team might be legit.
Before we move on, I do want to talk about the hype around the Hokies. Is it stopping now? I mean,
it's about Virginia Tech.
Yeah, we talked about this team possibly winning the SEC. I mean, the ACC. I don't think that's going to happen. I understand they haven't played a conference game, but you just lost to the worst team in the SEC. You were down 17-0 at one point.
Yeah, it never looked good.
Yeah, you stormed back, obviously forced overtime. But I think that narrative needs to go away at this point. Could they still compete in the ACC? Sure. But I mean, I think after losing to Vanderbilt in week 1, it doesn't look good at all. We obviously play at Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech is a very hostile environment, so they could beat Clemson. I'm not saying they can't beat Clemson, but I just don't think they're going to be consistent enough to win the ACC this year. Any takeaway from what? You didn't finish that sentence. Moving on, the next game from the close game with UH and UCLA. We'll get to that. We're going in order of when the game started. That's why we started with the Clemson game. That was the first game of the day. We're just going in order until the night games. The next game, I don't really care for the Oklahoma State game, to be honest. I mean, I thought that was a ho-hum game. I know Ollie Gordon, obviously one of the best running backs in college football. I expected them to win big. I don't know why the line was at 10 points. That was a part of my damn parlay, and Clemson screwed that up. So shout out to the Tigers again. But we'll go to the Akron Ohio State game. Obviously, I think the biggest takeaway from this game has to be Jeremiah Smith. Same concept as Nico, though. I mean, they played Akron. The game was close early on, but he looked the part. I mean, he looked like the best wide receiver on the field. He looked like the best player on the field. In some instances. But I'm excited to see how he looks against obviously better opposition. But you probably watched the whole game. I was in and out. So what was your takeaway from the offense as a whole? What's going on?
So what I loved is even more than Jeremiah Smith, and I think you're going to see him very similar to Marvin Harrison role, which allows everybody else to kind of settle in like last year, right? And Mbuka's going to work out of the slot. But what I liked even more than that was Will Howard's ability to extend plays with his legs and run the ball with his legs, obviously. I think that was something that we were missing last year from Kyle McCord. He's a big guy, a big 6'5", 230, 240 guy. So he's able to move around. If the defense, there were a couple sacks that he broke. So he gives an extra dimension to that offense. I think, again, playmakers all around. You've seen kind of a thunder and lightning thing with Judkins and Trey. So you'll see that Judkins is going to be that pound the ball in the middle guy, and Trey's going to come and give you that burst. I liked everything I saw for early. Again, like you mentioned, this game started slow. It looked like it took a little bit for them to get in sync. But when they did get in sync, this is a very good team, and I like what Will Howard added. So Guinea pig is hard to say. We were missing our best offensive lineman, Donovan Jackson. Our left guard probably going to be a top 15 pick. And again, we're playing Akron. So I do want to keep everything in, the correct expectations. We were playing Akron. I don't think they look great. I think they look good. Again, the question is, what happens when we play the Oregons, the Michigans with other 5-star linemen? So, I think you'll see the continuation of meshing on that offensive line as the season goes.
You want to answer this question as well?
Is Howard good enough quarterback to lead? Yeah, I think so. Because again, I think it's not necessarily Howard has to be great. It's Howard has to keep the ball out of danger, continue to move the chains, and get the ball to playmakers' hands. Right? You want to see the ball go to a Jeremiah Smith. I think Tate had a big 47-yard touchdown. Henderson, Judkins, just get the ball in their hands and then move the chains when you need to, right? If that offensive line does break down, can you find a way to buy yourself a little bit extra time to allow the play to work out the way it's supposed to be? So it's hard to say after one game. It's hard to say after one game against Akron. I think we're going to know much more when we play Iowa. Obviously, we're going to know a lot more when they play Oregon.
Moving on, the Texas game. Texas hosts Colorado State. Texas looked really good. Obviously, I labeled them the most complete team in college football this year.
You did.
I think Quinn Ewers looked really good. Obviously, Arch Manning made his debut. He looked decent as well. A lot of the buzz went to him, and I understand he has the Manning name, so he's going to get that. But yeah. I think overall the team looked really good, albeit they played Colorado State, who is probably going to be a 3 to 4 win team this year. So I don't think – we got to hold the horses a little bit. It's not as to the level of Akron. Colorado State's obviously a little bit better than Akron is, but they didn't play a tough team. So let's relax a bit. And again, I'm high on Texas. I think this is a team that's going to be in the Final Four or so. Could even make it to the national championship game. So I'm not hating on them by any means. I just think they handled the business they were supposed to handle. Miami, Florida. What do you think about Cam Ward and how Miami looks?
Man, let me tell you, I'm not putting the ACC on notice. I'm putting college football on notice. Cam Ward with these weapons. Cam Ward had a great season last year at Washington State. He did not have nearly the weapons that he has at Miami with, Restrepo? How do you say the guy's name? Restrepo with Damian Martinez.
It's not that hard to say, bro. I feel like you'd be trying to say it, man.
And then you got to see a veteran quarterback who can stay poised, who made some plays. He made one of what may be, and again, it's week one of the plays of the year, rolling to his left, throwing back across his body in the back of the end zone. That's what Cam Ward can do for you. Cam Ward, with this level of talent, it's going to be, I'm telling you, like I said, I would, having saw all that we saw in week one, I would have to call Miami the favorite to win the ACC right now.
I agree based on what we saw. But it's hard because you had obviously Florida State losing in week one, but I still think it's hard to say that Miami would be the favorite. I probably say Miami is a favorite over Clemson right now, but it's also Georgia and Florida are not the same type of opponent. So it's hard to say how they would have looked in, against Georgia, how we would have looked against Florida. Florida's going to be a really bad team this year based on what we've seen in the schedule and everything. So we don't know what kind of team this is going to be. But I think Miami looks really good. I think they look explosive. I said before, this offense is probably the best offense in the ACC with Damian Martinez, Restrepo, Ward. They bring back the receiver who killed Clemson last year in overtime. So I think Miami's going to be good. But Miami and Cristobal, something about them just scares me. Play calling wise, you play a Virginia Tech, you play a Georgia Tech, a Florida State, you still play a Miami, a Louisville, a Duke. So there are still some games on there that I consider to be trap games. Michigan is in trouble this year. Their offense will struggle. We're definitely going to get to them. But yeah, I think Cam Ward looked amazing in his debut in Miami, and I think Miami looked really good. Moving on, we have the Nebraska game. Nebraska UTEP. Dylan Raiola, to me, is I'm not gonna say like he's a Heisman candidate. That's not what I'm gonna say. Yeah, but what he flashed in this game and against UTEP, I understand. But I am probably more excited for Nebraska, Colorado next week than I am Texas, Michigan. I am so excited to see how Dylan Raiola and Nebraska, who's a blue blood, looks against Colorado when both teams have something to prove.
Yeah.
I think Dylan Raiola could have that same trajectory that Caleb Williams had, where he just skyrocketed to the top of college football by the time he was a junior or senior. Just the throws he was making at such a young age at Nebraska. He's not at Ohio State. He's not at Georgia. And I understand Nebraska still has talent. But
it's funny that you mentioned Ohio State and Georgia, because at one point in time he was committed to both schools.
Yeah, like he's not at a place where it's a top 5 recruiting hotbed for the last decade. Nebraska is a good team. It's a powerhouse. Don't get me wrong, but they've been down for 25 years.
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola looked amazing. He looked amazing. And again, I know the wide receivers made plays, but just his poise and the throws he made, the sidearm throws, and I understand he's getting a lot of crap because he looks like Mahomes. He played like him yesterday. So, I mean, I give him credit. I'm excited to see how he looks against Colorado next week.
Yeah, I think when you see a young player play that way and show you his ability to make every throw. Again, game one, and the scary part about college football is obviously we are a whatever happened last, we're reacting to the latest. It was UTEP, so we're not talking about a power, but I think this has created a lot of excitement. I think there was already excitement, but this young man looks like he can play some ball. And he might be, especially if you talk about him being in Nebraska for 3 years, he might be the thing that puts Nebraska back on the national picture. Obviously Nebraska's in the Big Ten as well. I'm not necessarily concerned about them this year, but thinking about having to play this young man for 3 more seasons is a little scary. No crazy numbers. You're only talking about, I think, right about 240 yards, but just his ability to make plays, his ability to extend plays. He looked like you mentioned, he looked like a poised vet out there, and then he dropped some dimes. It's going to be scary.
The next game, we're going to skip over a few, obviously, like lower teams, but the next game I want to talk about.
Is that what? Wait, what are you doing?
The next game I want to talk about. Hey, I might be a Boise State fan, y'all. I might be a Boise State fan.
Why does that hat not fit you?
I have a headset on.
Oh, I was gonna say
it's a visor. It's a visor. No, it's a visor. Before people call me, I'm jumping ship or a trader. We have a college football dynasty, and I'm Boise State, so I bought some gear because we do interviews.
That's why if you saw, I think a couple videos ago, I had a Utah State hoodie on.
Yeah, so those of you guys think I'm jumping ship, that's not the case. But Ashton Jeanty, 250 yards, 270 yards, I'm sorry, and 6 touchdowns. Again, against Georgia Southern, but Boise State is not Alabama, so you don't have an Alabama running or offensive line you're running behind. 6 touchdowns. I want to know, and this could be bold prediction number 1 heading at the start of this video. What kind of numbers and what kind of record does Boise State need to have in order for him to win the Heisman?
Ooh.
Because, I mean, if we just say...
I'm going to be honest, he'd have to be over 2,000, and then Boise State would have to be a playoff team.
So, I mean, I think if they go 10-2 or 11-1, and he has 30 total touchdowns.
The reason it's tough is because people are going to hold his competition against him, and he's not playing the same competition that players in the SEC or the Big Ten are playing against, right? That's the thing that's going to hurt him. So that's why I say I don't think it's impossible. I think his numbers, and again, I'm not saying he has to do this every game, but his numbers have to be astronomical. It has to be like, oh shit, we got, I think how many who's the last group of 5 Heisman candidate? Ritter?
Either
did Ritter get a New York invite? I can't remember.
When was that? 2019, right?
I can't remember. Yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, obviously Randy Moss got a New York invite when he was at Marshall. I don't know many though. I don't know many group of 5 guys that have even gotten invites.
I don't see Ritter even on here
He
unless
said,
I'm
Guinea Pig said 2021.
okay. Let me see. Ritter's 8th.
Oh, okay.
Pickett was there.
Well, Pickett's power 4.
I know. I'm saying that's the third quarterback.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think so. The next one I can think of after that is Randy Moss, who I know.
Was it not Colt Brennan? He might not have went.
I don't think Colt Brennan got invited. There were people that were in the conversation.
So I don't know if this guy got an invite. I'm assuming he did, but in 2013, Jordan Lynch from Northern Illinois came in 3rd in voting. So I don't know if he went, but he came in 3rd in voting.
That probably would have been. Yeah, that probably would have. Okay. All right. So it's possible for an invite. But again, you gotta be blowing people out of the water. He needs to be probably 400 or 500 yards.
Colt Brennan came in 3rd in 2007.
Okay. He got to be 400 or 500 yards better than the next guy. So it's possible. I don't think it's probable.
Guinea Pig, I think I'm actually going to go to that game now that you say that.
Really?
Yeah, it's Boise State at Oregon. I was either going to go to the Texas Tech at Washington State game next week, and they're at the same exact time. I don't really care for watching the Clemson App State game. We're probably going to lose, so I don't really care about that game. So I'm gonna go
You're
and
just wait. Let's rewind back. You said Clemson's going to lose to App State?
At this point, it wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, so okay. You playing around? I was
like, I'm not gonna. The game's at 5. I would be driving, so I don't like. At first I was gonna not go because I wanted to watch the Clemson game. That's typically what I would do, but at this point, I don't really give a damn. So I'm just gonna go to the game and enjoy myself. So I think I'm gonna go to that game, especially because Oregon did not look great against Idaho last week, and Boise State's offense looked really good. Well, Genty looked really good, so I want to see how that game will play out. I'll probably end up going to that game. But moving on, the next game that we're going to talk about that we got to give love to, obviously, I'm 99.9% certain him or his brother's not in here, but South Carolina almost lost to Old Dominion.
My boy,
Miles.
I was his first coach in football history. In his football path, I was his first head coach ever. I taught him everything he knows.
That's a crazy statement. I'm actually going to send the link to him. But yeah,
so you don't know, Steven's talking about, we have a family friend that we've known for a long time that plays for Old Dominion. He actually got some run this past weekend. Miles Austin, wide receiver, he's number 8. So Steven kind of grew up with his older brother, Michael. They're the same age. Miles happens to be about the same age as Steven's younger brother, Antonio. I coached their football team, flag football.
Buddy really trying to get him some coaching, respect, bro. Shut up, bro.
I'm telling you, I got that man ready. But
he's the reason he got the scholarship. It's crazy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's like they say, you know, you never forget your never mind. But no, but 5 catches, 40 yards. So not anything crazy, but man,
they almost beat them, man. I would have been so happy with South Carolina losing to them. That was the first game that I've watched in a long time outside of Clemson playing a bad team. That's disrespectful, Miles. I don't mean a bad team. I'm sorry. Besides like Clemson playing a lower team, this is the first time I watched a game like start to finish that a power like a SEC team played against a lower team. Yeah. And it was entertaining. I mean,
it was an exciting game. Yeah.
South Carolina looked very, very pedestrian with, Lenore Sellers and Rocket Sanders. And I was in my bedroom watching this game, Miles getting catches, and I'm screaming at the TV. Like it was fun. And mind you, that was after Clemson lost, right after, and I was still having fun watching the game. So that was a good game to watch.
Shout out to my boy Miles if you see this.
Alabama, Western Kentucky, they took care of business, obviously. Jalen Milroe, a big game. So, Ryan Williams.
I do want to make one little note. I think you saw what Jalen Milroe is going to look like this year. And that is, I think that, and again, this is not a knock to Nick Saban. Nick Saban goes down as the GOAT. But I think Nick Saban's offense didn't fully fit Jalen Milroe and his style. I think what DeBoer is going to do, spread him out and give that guy running lanes. And he's probably one of the most dynamic athletes in college football this year. I probably put him right behind Travis Hunter. So that guy with a football in his hand and the ability to run pass, and you literally saw that a couple plays where he either pulled up as he goes to run, the defense starts to focus on him, he throws it over their head, or vice versa. Man, this is going to be tough to stop. It's going to be tough for anybody to stop Jalen Milroe with those weapons. And again, Ryan Williams looks like he's going to be legit, obviously. And his ability as a dual threat guy, this Alabama team might be just as good as before, just in a different way.
I agree. Ole Miss, I don't want to talk too much. They scored 70 points. I think my prediction was 70-0, and they won 76-0.
Yeah,
which is crazy. Obviously Jackson Dart looked really good. They just beat up on them. Kansas State beat up on UT Martin. That was expected. The next game I kind of want to stay put and talk about is the Oregon game. 24-14. Oregon did not look like what we thought they would look like. Idaho is not a good team at all.
Did you watch this game?
I did not. Watch the game. But I mean, I know it was like 14-7 in the third quarter. So it's very close.
I didn't watch the game. I turned it off and on a little bit. It looks like the concerning part for Oregon is they don't have anybody who can take the top off. Just look at it. Looks like they're going to run a dink and dunk 5 yards, 5-yard little drags and outs. And it didn't look like they had anybody who could take the top off. Now, obviously, Dalen Gabriel, I think, 41 for 48 for 400 yards, but they couldn't score. They had to continue to matriculate that all the way down the field. Now, again, please, if I am wrong and there was something else that was going on, please put it in the chat, because I did not watch this game. But the little couple of times that I did turn it on, that's what it looked like. It looks like they're going to run a bunch of 5. Now, maybe they didn't want to show too much. I don't know, but it looked like they're running 5-yard drags all day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was a lot more expectation coming into the season with Dillon Gabriel in this offense. And scoring 24 points against a team like Idaho is not what we expect. Next week they have a team like Boise State. I think if they have another showing like that where they win a close game, I think heads are going to start turning about, how we look at this team and how we look at that Ohio State game. Because obviously I had Oregon as my favorite to win the Big Ten. I still do, but,
Hey, and I want to make a point, because I made this point a couple times. Evan Stewart, 3 catches, 15 yards.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game, so I mean,
I'm telling you, I think Tez is wide receiver number 1. Now, again, he had 12 catches, 81 yards, which again is a low catch average. But I don't think Evan Stewart is all that people believe he is.
It's hard to say, because next week he can have 250 yards.
Good point.
We just have to wait and see. Notre Dame A&M, obviously, one of the bigger games this week.
I think this was the best game of the week.
Yeah, the best.
Is there a game like, especially when you're talking about 2 ranked teams, and the game was good all the way until the very end?
Yeah, that was the only one. I mean, it was the only game that I watched, through and through, or start to finish. So Notre Dame looked good. I think offensively, they could, push the ball a little bit more down the field. Oh, we got that big win finally. So I have a question, and
I don't know if I can. Do you?
That's what I was going to ask you. So I will say Texas A&M is a top 5 atmosphere, but
yes.
would you consider it a big win? Because I don't think Texas A&M is.
I'm going to be honest, and again, guinea pig, please.
This is no hate to Notre Dame.
Let's talk about it. I never viewed Texas A&M as a true national championship contender, and so for Notre Dame, because again, I have Notre Dame in that group, in the Blue Bloods. But the concern with Notre Dame is I don't think, or they seem to have issues beating other national championship contenders. Yeah. Now, I hope this game gives them a little confidence. Listen, I'm a Marcus Freeman guy. Obviously, he went to Ohio State. But I don't believe that I believe Texas A&M was a little bit overhyped to begin with. I don't think this is now we're over the hump. I think they need to beat Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. Those are that they need to win one of those type games.
I understand, and that's why I said A&M is a tough home team,
Yeah.
a tough team to beat on the road. So I will give credit for that. But I just at the end of the year, I don't know if you can look at this game like let's say Notre Dame goes 9-3, and we can't say like, well, they had a big win against A&M. I anticipate A&M being a 7 or 8 win team. I don't think this team is going to be a playoff contending type team. That's just how I view A&M. No, I think A&M has been overrated for the last 3 seasons.
Now I'm going to say I like Riley Leonard with his offense.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of what he was able to do, especially with his legs. He was able to extend some drives, able to extend some plays. Again, I'd like to see them. I think Riley Leonard only threw for like 150 yards. I'd like to see them push the ball a little bit. But I think Notre Dame is the type of team that's only going to ask their offense to not put their defense in bad positions. Take advantage when they can, and don't put your defense in bad positions. Kudos and shout out, because I think we got this bet. Bo Collins, 5 catches, 62 yards. Evan Stewart, 3 catches, 15 yards.
And the bet was 200 yards over, right?
Yeah, so he's 45 yards ahead right now.
And it's what week it is?
I'm just keeping track for those of you at home.
You know what's gonna end up
happening. We're
happening.
out of the gate first.
Bo Collins messed around and have 4 straight games where he's just a blocker. They're gonna have him lined up at tight end.
He seemed to be Riley Leonard's number 1 target. He legitimately, they seem to have some pretty good chemistry. Why? Did you watch that? Like he seemed to
guinea pig. I think they'll be around 8. I don't believe there is any way this team wins 10 games. Like
I'm telling you, Bo Collins.
I'm talking about A&M. I'm talking about A&M.
No.
I don't think A&M wins 10 games. They still have to play Missouri. They still got to play LSU, and they still have to play Auburn, and they still play Texas. That would basically mean that they only lose 1 more game for the rest of the year. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think this team looked very good. I think defensively they were very fast. I said it in the chat yesterday. Defensively they looked super fast. Just top end speed in the secondary as well as the linebacker spot. But I don't think Notre Dame is going to be the best offense you've seen, and I don't think they're going to be the best defense you've seen. I think Texas has a really good defense. I think Texas has a really good offense, and that's just one other game. That's at the end of the year, so we'll see. I do give credit for Notre Dame though. That was a big win for them, and I think, like I said, I think Notre Dame's going to get in the playoffs this year. I have them going 11-1. I think so.
Absolutely love this for Notre Dame. Take nothing from them. I think Riley Leonard gives them something that they truly need. When you mix that with Bo Collins as the true number 1 receiver.
Shut up talking about him, bro. Next game, he said trying to push on the field would probably have been suicide. Texas A&M had the best D-line in the country, and we have 6 starts in the O-line total. Well, eventually you're going to have to push the ball down the field.
I don't think... I'm not saying obviously his game plan worked. I'm saying as the season goes.
Fresno State at Michigan. I knew this was going to happen. Michigan is not a good team. I said this from the jump. This is a 8 or 9 win team at most. I think this team is going to lose next week against Texas. I think they could lose against Washington in a few weeks. I think they're going to lose against Ohio State. So if they play Penn State, they're going to lose that game. So I think eventually we're going to see Sharon Moore and the rest of this team get exposed. And again, I'm not a Michigan hater. I picked them to win the national championship last year. So I'm just calling it how it is. I don't think this team is very good. I think this team has been overrated. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think as the season goes on, we're going to start to see that this team is not built to sustain another deep playoff run.
I am not going to be a Michigan hater. So what I'm going to say is,
I actually think it is very close. I don't think that's a hot take. I think Texas and Notre Dame's defense is very close.
Oh yeah. That boy Colston Loveland is legit. You got to be concerned about that quarterback situation, whether it's Davis Warren or Orji. I think Donovan Edwards is one of the most overhyped players in college football history. This is a guy who did not have a great season last year. He pops off in 1 game, and now he's on the cover of a football game, and he has Heisman odds in his favor. I don't think he's that. He ran 11 times for 27 yards against Fresno State, which is very indicative of what he did last year. So this isn't a one-off. I don't think he's good. You can see they kind of went to that dude Mullings, who I've never heard of before in my life.
I think Donovan Edwards is a good running back. You don't think he's
I
good?
don't think he's good. Now, again, he had
That's
a
kinda
200-yard game against Ohio State. And so maybe this is a little bit of hater against me. Let me say that was 2 years ago. But I don't think Donovan Edwards is a good running back. I don't think you run 11 times for 27 yards against Fresno State and you call yourself and the belief is you're a good running back. And again, I think what Donovan Edwards had maybe 400, 500 yards last year. I don't think he's great. I think, yes, this Michigan team has a very good defense, and they're going to be tough to score on. I think the offense has a tough road ahead.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
think Donovan Edwards is not good.
Don't let that come back to bite you in your ass.
I'm saying it. I'm putting it on wax.
I promise you, the people that are in here are going to remember you saying that. Don't let him gas y'all. That I would hate to have you come on here being pissed about that. UCLA at Hawaii. I actually watched the fourth quarter of that game. I was rooting for Hawaii to pull it off. Obviously, I just think at the end of the day, they didn't have the talent. They don't really have the game plan to beat a Power 5 team because they should have won that game. They should not have lost. Very close. Oh God, here we go. Very.
Wait. Oh, okay. I forgot. What? He's an LSU fan, right?
So he calls himself.
So he's not an LSU fan?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see by the end of the year.
Chris?
But yeah, I think UCLA should have lost this game. But moving on, I guess the last game to talk about is that Arizona game. Tatario McMillan, 300 and something yards, 4 touchdowns. If this game was competitive, he probably would have went for like 500 receiving yards. He could have easily broke the record for receiving last night. Receiving yards, not touchdowns. I don't think he would have got to 9 touchdowns receiving. But, I mean, he had 200 yards receiving like halfway through the second quarter.
Yeah.
And, again, they pulled away very, very quickly in the third quarter, late third quarter. So he didn't play much. Arizona still ain't got no defense. I agree. But I
was about to say that.
But I think that's a storyline for the entire Big 12 outside of Utah. I don't think Colorado has any defense. I think Oklahoma State's defense is piss poor. So I think it's going to be the exact same situation as the Pac-12 last year. People are just going to score at will. And I think with Arizona bringing back a very, very good quarterback and arguably a top 3 receiver who, mind you, I did not know he was 6'5", for one. I thought he was like 6'1". He's 6'5". He was out there playing like Megatron. And I know it was New Mexico. I understand that. But the way he was just like, he was doing things against these other kids, like it looked like Pop Warner. Like he when I saw him do the move where you run by, you juke and put the ball over someone's head, I knew like, yeah, like this isn't Pee Wee, bro. Like I've never seen that move work in college football. And he did it yesterday. So he's going to be scary.
My man, and I, if I had to do the early guess for Biletnikoff, I think it's easy because I think he's going to put up numbers. One, because I think back to the point that was made by Guinea Pig, I think this Arizona defense is horrendous. And I know we mentioned a lot of the Big 12, but I think this Arizona defense is worse. There's no way New Mexico is supposed to score 40 points. Yeah. But so I think they're going to have to do this, especially in some of the games against better teams. He's going to have to be in all game. He's going to have to go for 300. Let me say this. I don't think this is his last 300-yard game. That's my hot take. I don't think this is his last 300-yard game of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they were targeting him damn near every play in that first half. It's like, I remember, first of all, the running back is fast as hell. Yeah. That might have been the first running back that I've seen on TV that I'm like, you can tell he's fast. Like, I'm looking at it like, and mind you, I played a lot of college football 2025. So I know he's like a 97 speed in the game. And I know like they be messing with ratings sometimes. I'm like, is he actually fast? They gave him the ball in the backfield, but he scattered. He was gone. So they scored and I turned it off. Less than 5 minutes later, Sterling texted me, was like, bro, he just got another 45-yard touchdown. I'm like, bro, they just scored. How do they have the ball back? And it's like they just kept feeding him over and over. So I'm excited to see what kind of season he has.
Yeah,
I know I've been very high on Utah, but I think Arizona can make noise for the Big 12 title too. And I know they don't play no defense, but I mean, if the offense can score though, the offense can score.
They're gonna be hard to stop. That's a fact.
That's all the games to talk about. Christian says, do y'all finally think Ole Miss will get over the hump? I said this before. I think Ole Miss, I'd be more surprised if they didn't make the playoffs than if they did. I think they're the third best team in the SEC. third or fourth. I'll say third or fourth. Obviously, Alabama looked really good. So the top 4 to me are Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, and Alabama. But I think Ole Miss can win the SEC this year, and I wouldn't be like, oh my God, the world's going to end. Like, I think this is a really good team.
No, I think Ole Miss, if you put them in most other conferences, they're by leaps and bounds the favorite, maybe outside of the Big Ten. This Ole Miss team is very good. And I suspect, and again, to me, in the SEC, you're talking about the Big Four, the teams that Steven just mentioned, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss. And when you talk about the fact that Steven doesn't have any of them losing a game, it's really kind of because –
Wait, what?
I mean, you have all of them losing a game.
Oh, okay.
It's really kind of because you assume that they're all going to beat up on each other. I think any of those teams could beat any of those teams, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
How do I feel about Ohio State? How do you think I feel? National championship, baby. You saw the opening. That was chapter 1 in the national championship story.
Yeah. We had a conversation last night, me and my dad. I was telling him, like, it's starting to set in. Like, I haven't seen Clemson win a national championship in 5 years. And I was like, I've only gotten to see 2 in my life. And then he was like, I've only gotten to see 2 in my life with Ohio State. And I was like, damn, bro. I was like, when's the last time you saw him win a championship? What'd you say? 2014? And I was like, one before that. He said 2002. I was like, bro, that's miserable.
So that means, miserable. And again, listen, if you guys don't, I'm from Ohio.
It's kind of like Guinea Pig. Like, Guinea Pig has not seen one. And I'm not trying to be funny. It's like, when you put it in
Guinea Pig?
When was the last? I know he's not 40.
Notre Dame won in the, I think, 90s.
There's no way Guinea Pig is that old, bro.
Oh, I don't know how old he is.
Nah, ain't no damn way Guinea Pig is.
Have you ever
35,
seen Notre Dame
bro?
in the national championship?
No, if you 35 with the name Guinea Pig, so going on. Yeah, see, I told you. Yeah, I told you. He's probably like in his 20s. He's got to be like in his 20s. You've never seen Notre Dame. Man,
but let me say this, because we were talking about, this is where I feel like Alabama fans under Saban got a little spoiled, right? Like I said, listen, the 2 Ohio State national championships, I remember where I was. Those were, man, I remember when they won in 2002. If you guys remember, that was the game against Miami. Where I won't get into the semantics because this gets into a whole argument. But the play happened. What is that?
The game started. We're going to wrap this one up, my brother.
But literally, Ohio State scores in overtime. And, man, I went screaming in the streets. Like, that was Maurice Clarett, if you guys don't remember, Craig Krenzel. That was
USC with a big big third down stop. That defense looking good this year, Chris.
All right, man, let's get out of here, man. That's his wrap it up, B. That's what he tried to tell me. Wrap it up, B.
But yeah, so that wraps up week 1. Obviously, we're gonna post a video tomorrow talking about the LSU USC game. Then we'll post a video on Tuesday talking about the Boston College Florida State game. We'll probably take a 2-day hiatus there. Friday, we're gonna come back again with the week 2 preview, and we're going to keep it going throughout the entirety of the season. So, they're going for it on 4th and 2, bro. They got it. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with us. If you haven't already, please like the video. The season for Clemson is not over, so just bear with us.
Chapter 1, baby.
All right, bro. Listen, I think I have a weird feeling that statement you made will come back to bite you in your ass about Donovan Edwards, bro.
I said it. Overrated.
But we'll have to figure it out. I appreciate it, Guinea Pig. We gotta try to vlog that Ohio State
Guinea Pig, one of the old heads with us. What? Oh, the game?
Ohio State Oregon game. We didn't vlog the Clemson one, but
yeah.
Then again, I don't think
we actually did some pretty dope shit. Man, I'm trying to get out there because I'm hoping it's the game day game. The only problem, and I realize this, it's a fucking night game.
That's good.
Well, I say this because I wanted to go out and do the game day stuff.
Okay.
But then what are we going to do for game day starts at 11?
Well, what we'd probably have to do is get a hotel for those 2 nights and then go back to the hotel and watch the games.
Catch a napa, yeah, because you know
catch
me.
A nap. Well, that's how you know.
I'll be in a...
You know what's crazy, though? When we went to the Clemson game, you couldn't sleep. Like
Oh no, it was hype.
where we were. I mean, I think
Yeah.
if we were up top, you probably would have been able to sleep. But where we were, like the atmosphere didn't allow you to
It was
sleep.
hype. It was
We
hype.
was rocking
And
down
that
there.
was a really good game.
Yeah, hopefully this game is as good. I'm gonna be in my Ducks gear.
Man, you about to, right. I still got both tickets. I want you to know.
You catch us 4 p.m. dinner time. That's crazy. But it's gonna be fun. But
who's the is Dane going? I need to.
Yeah, Dane will be there. So I don't know why he's not in here. But
Dane's going to the game. Shit.
Yeah, we'll have to link up with him. Yeah, we'll link up with Dane.
Just in case we run into some problems. I don't know how they be in Oregon.
He bought his ticket already. He showed me he bought his ticket. I think him and his brother-in-law or something. I forget, but yeah, we'll be there. But we're running over. So we'll see you guys tomorrow for the USC LSU game. Recap Monday night or Tuesday night will be the Boston College Florida State recap, and then Friday we'll see you guys for the live show. Turn your guys' notifications on. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like.